Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose it?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy. Darling. Light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
This is very serious. We do not.
This
we don't
is
malign.
This is one of
the
those.
wrath of God.
This is one of those movies, where it's just like, and it's funny because it's not like so film snobby, but now watching it now definitely feels like only fucking mega film nerds would watch this movie in 2023. But at the time, it felt like a fucking like a cool indie movie. But it's like not like a French art house movie, but I don't know. It's like I watched it with my brother, you know, and I was like,
It's art house. It's art house,
is.
capital A, though, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, right.
yeah,
But I know what you're saying. Like, it's so weird. So I came into this film with no knowledge, like yourself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I imagine.
I
you know,
literally. So this we'll just let's get out of the way
Okay.
before we get down the tangent. This is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. No knowledge. Now we have knowledge, right? Jordan, Levi, we're watching Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and the only knowledge I had going in, Herzog and Klaus Kinski. Pretty much it. And that it was like Criterion and like pretty well regarded.
right.
That's like
Well,
that's
and
like
then-
all I knew. I didn't really know what it was about. I didn't really know the
I-
discord around it or anything, but
we kind of have to do a slight correction because we're we didn't have the knowledge, now we do. We in a later episode, last week's episode, I think we mentioned we thought this was the one where he carries the ship over.
yeah,
Our mistake, it's the other Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski
Yeah.
film vehicle that came out like 4 years later or something. It was like
it was almost 10 years later. It was like 81.
was it 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh, was it 81? I thought
But
it was like 70.
Fritz-
They did another one. Was it is it Nosferatu that they do
Fitzcarlo.
after?
Yeah, they did 5 together.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because they did. I actually watched quite a bit because I was intrigued about the production of this movie. So for once, I actually kind of was the guy. Like I know some of the stuff for once.
You gotta tell me because let's see what I know.
But
now, 'cause
we'll see. This is the first collaboration between those two.
Yes.
And then,
This
but,
is clear-
but they've done a few, you know.
So it's always tough. I want to get this just kind of get ahead of this real quick. We don't support Klaus Kinski here, personally,
I
at all.
I am
ever.
enthralled with his presence.
Yes.
but he
Yes.
seems like a horrible person.
What I basically I just want to say the moments that he's on film and he gets captured in cellulite, that is what I want to like respect and talk about.
Yeah,
His personal life and behind the scenes shit.
Yeah.
he's a monster.
Yeah.
He is a truly terrible human being. Not where like Herzog's kooky and violent, but like
yeah,
kind of in an
Herzog.
endearing way.
Yeah, he's done some questionable things, certainly.
Yes.
But he doesn't have like the sexual assault allegations and the like strangling of his fucking like acting coach and
like, he's not homicidal.
literally
Right,
was a
right. And, like,
Nazi.
Kinski-
Klaus Kinski was literally a Nazi in World War II.
Yeah.
So.
Right. And he was
Well,
very abusive
he's-
to a lot of people and not in a constructive way. And so anyways,
No, he's deeply mentally
is
ill,
that's
but
the
that's like not an
disclaimer.
excuse. But
Yes.
like, as they always say,
right.
damaged, broken people make the best fucking artists, man. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, some of the best artists are
Right.
fucking absolute, just despicable,
he's-
broken people.
and it gave him like some will and passion to push people and to go to the extreme, and that reflects on the on his acting side, what's captured in film and then immortalized. But
Yeah, 'cause-
personally, he's trash and terrible, and we don't condone him. But I really loved this performance by him, and this actually kind of a little quick history. It like he was about to be like on the street, destitute, with like nothing, and he stayed with Werner Herzog for a couple weeks or a few months, and they were like, he was just like, okay, I want you to be
That was
in
like
this picture. You're like, you have this energy. You know, it's basically the Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes.
Yeah. Well, it was
team up.
actually they'd lived in the same boarding house together when Werner Herzog was like 15, and so they like knew each
and then
other from
later
then.
okay.
And then like
So they have even a deeper history.
yeah, and then like after the war and everything, Kinski was like an actor and like got in all the acting and stuff, and then like he did this like one man like play, and it absolutely got fucking reamed, where he like played Jesus Christ. And he got like booed off stage.
He did that.
And
did that throughout his whole life.
Yeah, and that was 1971, and he was like basically that part of his career kind of bombed. And but then at the same time, Herzog's like, this guy, I need to make him. I can't do the Herzog voice, but he's got the voice, you know. Like, but yeah, no, I don't know. The stars aligned there somehow because they ended up making, you know, a lot of pretty revered pictures, and this is one of them. This is arguably the biggest one of the biggest one, you know.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, I think Nosferatu is probably the most watched by them.
Maybe
together,
most watched.
but-
This is definitely the most highest rated, easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this movie is phenomenal, and it's so funny because Herzog's always been on. I mean, he's clearly in my radar, but he's always been on my like watch list, and I want to get to his filmography
all over the place, man. Because
that's the thing. Yeah, it's like I don't know where to start.
I'm
kind of like, well, cool. Let's go like kind of at the beginning.
Yeah, I've seen like 5 Herzog movies, but like 3 of them I didn't even know were Herzog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I was like going through his, and I'm like, holy shit, what? Herzog did fucking Rescue Dawn and shit. I'm like, what? Like,
yeah. Well, dude, there's a movie by Herzog. Okay. It's like I don't know how much. I actually don't even really remember the last episode. We talked about Nosferatu. That was like in the single digit.
Go listen to that
so
episode. I'm sure it's
maybe
garbage,
go listen to
maybe.
it. We want to listen to it again too.
It's 2 good movies. We did The Thing and Nosferatu the Vampire, the remake, and those are 2 great films. So I don't know. I'm wondering if that episode sucks or not.
I know, right? We got to go back, but hopefully we didn't. We don't. We don't celebrate Klaus Kinski.
I always knew he was a
Who knows?
psychopath. I talked about it a little bit because it's like I'd been introduced to him a little bit before, but my first introduction to Klaus Kinski was the 80s horror movie Crawl Space, which I've talked to you about, and it's not a good movie, but he in it is fucking haunting. Yeah. And then I kind of became low-key obsessed with that movie when I saw it, because it's just there's something about it that's really uncomfortable. It's like a pretty bad movie, but it's got a weird vibe that I really like. And but that's when I learned on that set he was a fucking nightmare, and they were like planning on killing him for his insurance money and all this, and like that's where I was like went down that rabbit hole where I'm like, oh, he's one of those fucking guys. And he's like, that's like what he's most known for, is like he's an actor, huge ego, but like he's most known for being like probably like the most difficult actor ever in like film history to work with, like one of the biggest names that's so difficult to work with. But he's been dead pretty much our whole life, so whatever, fuck him.
Right. No, I mean, yeah, for reals, like
Yeah.
him as a human being, yeah, he can get fucked.
Well, he's got the quote unquote legacy, but like we've talked about before when we talked about Roman Polanski and things like that, it's like,
right,
you know, just I don't know. You got to find a way to separate, and I think that's, you know, some people can do it, some people can't. I, for one, have no problem separating it, and if anything, I think that makes the discourse around it sometimes more interesting. I don't know. To be like the toss-up, you know what I mean? It's like, what makes this like this guy's a fucking piece of shit? But I don't know, something about it. But this is it my week?
That's gonna be it.
Let's get into
Yes,
this
it was your week
actual
for-
movie. I did not do a synopsis. Sorry. But I'm just I'm going to try and wing it for you right quick, okay? Without anything in front of me. Let's see. So,
it is pretty atmospheric. So kind of
yeah, I mean, the plot, it's like, I'm not going to get into every little story beat. But anyway, so Aguirre, The Wrath of God, 1972, directed by Werner Herzog. It follows this band of Spanish conquistadors and all their slaves in South America as they search for El Dorado, the fabled, mythical, legendary city of gold. Early on, there's like a large group, and but they can't take the whole group, so they basically, the main leader sends a scouting party ahead of like, I don't even know, like 50 people or something. Sends them ahead. They build these rafts. They're going down the Amazon River. Eventually things get shitty. They lose a raft. The floodwaters do their rafts away. The guy said he's got to be back in 7 days regardless. So the leader's like, let's head back. And then Aguirre is like, nah, fuck that. We're going to go let's carry on because you're not remembered for being, pussies that go back to their leaders. Your history remembers the brave and blah, 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 blah. And he does a huge speech and causes a mutiny. And
mutiny ensues.
Yeah, so they fucking shoot the guy, and instead of him being in charge, though, he puts like the highest, the like sycophant, the highest nobleman that happens to be there. He puts him in charge as like this puppet. Guzman puts him in charge, thinking he's going to be a puppet, but then he gets to his head, and see where that gets him. Right. So they go down the river, and they keep on going, and they decide not to fully kill the main guy, Diaz or Duez or whatever it was, I forget. Starts with a D and has a Z in it. But they're going down the river. They run into some other tribes of like Aboriginals that live there. And they see like signs of cannibalism, and they get all freaked out, and they don't really know what's what. But they're just going along. It's all very dreamy and atmospheric. And it's funny because they're starving, and they're like dying of fucking diseases and fever and shitting themselves to death. But at the same time, they're like, this is our kingdom. I'm the Emperor of El Dorado, and it's 6 times the size of Spain. And it's like, but really they're just like barely surviving. I don't know. It's an interesting juxtaposition of that.
I love that. I love that parallel.
Yeah.
Where it's like how the colonizer, like, with just the stroke of his pen, they're like, we own this land.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, but the whole time you as a viewer are like, but you don't own anything.
No,
like,
you don't.
I love the hubris involved there.
It's crazy, and it's amazing. It's an interesting look back on our history, and probably pretty accurate.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Dude, people have said it before, and I just want to reiterate, this feels like a found footage film from the 1600s.
Yeah, I actually kept thinking,
like,
I don't know if it's The Jungle, but I know the plots are not really similar, but I kept thinking of Cannibal Holocaust in this movie.
That's it, dude.
Because it's like the film camera
my note.
really just like, it's got like fucking water on the lens and shit. They're just like on the raft. Right. But anyway, they go down the river. Eventually, there's like another low-key mutiny, and they feed the Emperor of El Dorado, Guzman, some fucking nasty river water, and he like shits himself to death and dies. Essentially, but and all this while, Aguirre has his 15-year-old daughter with him, and he becomes the leader, kills the other people that are, has them hanged. He decapitates a guy, and it's pretty great. For trying to dissent against him, even though they're all dissenters at that point, which is another hypocrisy of like, they're all deserters and all unloyal. They like literally join, they're like brigands, and they go along. Eventually everyone dies and is pretty much killed by more natives, and they like crash their boat at the end. It just gets stuck in the fucking riverbank. His daughter gets hit with an arrow. And the whole raft gets overswam by all these monkeys. And even in the final moments, Aguirre's on the raft by himself. There's also an old ship stuck in a tree, which is pretty great, of like a other lost. They're like, everyone thinks it's a hallucination, but they're like hinted it's like another lost fucking voyage, because like, you go down this river and you just are gone, but you think you're the fucking emperor or whatever. And, he monologues to some monkeys, and he still is like, we're going to go out to the ocean, and then we're going to take over the fucking cities, and we're going to overthrow the Spanish Empire. And I'm like, and he's just shouting it to some monkeys alone on a river where he's almost certainly going to die. But I don't know. He's got enough gumption. That's how it ends. But he's got enough gumption. He might do it. I don't know. He's like a tiny little goblin man. Like, it's terrifying.
Yeah, who knows? He has his Christ with him, and I'm pretty sure he could take him to El Dorado.
He is the wrath of God. He's trying to play, earlier on, he's trying to kind of play it subtle, trying to play it cool, be more cunning, and like, everyone like he's like against the rebellion, you know, but then he's like, but I'm gonna hang back and I'm actually just second in charge, so don't mind me. Like he's pulling strings and stuff, and then later it's like full on tyrannical, where it's just like, this guy's a head taller than me, but that may change soon, and then that's this dude
That's
cut
such
off
a
his head.
sick line.
Yeah,
No, and I love that, dude. I love how and they cut the head, and then just to get like the nitty gritty production value too, it's like it lobs the head off. You get the shot of the fake head, and then the dude's buried under some like palm leaves, and he's
and he's
got
still
the fake
talking. He's
blood,
counting. Yeah,
and he
yeah,
counts
so
to
good.
10. He counts to 10 because they're like they're counting like the grains of
No,
rice
it's
or
a
whatever.
really great shot because it just
Or what's
whips.
what is he counting? But yeah, it whips over, and he's like 10. He gets one more. It's
pretty
Dude, that ship. It's like, so that's, we're getting to the end. Like, let's rewind here.
That's it. Yeah, I mean the movie's pretty vague. Them going down the river, basically lost, but they never for 1 second admit it. It's definitely
right. I mean,
of the idea of this conquest, but they're really just like this rogue rebellion that is fucking dying in the Amazon because they're totally unprepared. And a common theme with Herzog seems to be, it was like man versus nature and stuff, and it's like trying to overcome this untamed land, and absolutely it's laughable. But that's kind of what makes it great.
Yeah, that's what's so cool. His narratives are typically like, they're like kind of all of it wrapped into one. It's usually like, you know, man versus self, man versus nature, man versus man. They all like every single one of those comes into play at some point really crucially, and it like enhances it. But dude, this movie, I feel like it, for how it's wild, dude. It has such a huge production value for like not being very expensive and not being very big. Like there isn't like crazy shots. Like it's all shot on a boat or it's all shot on land, and it's either like handheld or sticks. It's like
Werner Herzog. I'm sure you know this, so it's like I did look in a little bit. I actually I know the budget for once, but I didn't get too into it because I know that's your job. But it's like he stole the 35 millimeter camera from his film school, and he just fucking, which is great because I'm like, this looks really good, and I thought it was 16 millimeter, but it's 35, which is great. Because it's like it looks good, but it's like the people talk about like movies that couldn't be made today, and this is one of them, just because it's like it's so. Like the rawness of it, it's so unsafe, but it's just literally like, we're going to the jungle. We're filming this fucking movie. We're shooting it fucking just guerrilla style. Like,
well, the crew, there were only like 8 people on crew, and it's like everybody is working. Like the things you see, that's what. So it's kind of almost slightly distracting, or just like it almost kind of like it adds to the realism, but then like it just makes me exhausted sometimes watching them on the rafts, because I'm like, you know, they shot all day on the raft, and it is like they're in like a foot of water half the time.
No,
like,
there's not.
You know, the raft is like slowly falling apart. There's
not like a cushy trailer on the shore with like a fucking catering and like lattes.
They were on
like,
raft with tents when they
they're
did.
dying of malaria from getting eaten by mosquitoes, probably. Like it's like.
Well, no, but that's what was cool though, was actually not a single person got sick. One person got like hepatitis or gonorrhea or something. They got a sexually transmitted disease. So out of this whole production, only one person got sick, and it was like an STD that was not even wasn't related. To
there's a few injuries, and quite a few injuries, and 2 of the bigger ones are caused by Klaus Kinski outrages. So
yep,
he clobbered some guy in the head with his sword with his helmet on, but busted his wound. You read about he got mad and shot into a tent of extras, and blew off a dude's finger.
Fingers off. It's like
Jesus Christ, man.
But,
like, can you imagine nowadays? Yeah, can you imagine nowadays just like some like I don't know, some director, probably like a kind of bigger director.
Fucked.
I guess that's true, but it's just like taking fucking Tom Cruise into the jungle and he just like rages out. Like, what in the hell? Like, I don't know.
I know, you really like this is very specific to the time period. Like, I'm happy that we're doing 70s, because it's like this is kind of like what we were getting at, is like the 70s was a huge change.
Yeah.
Like there were like they're just like
Well,
no.
and this
holds
is like
barred, and people were, like,
international. You know what I mean? It's like they're
Yeah,
fucking.
yeah.
It's like this. It was real. This kind of
it's almost. I want a documentary about Werner Herzog and his filming style, because as much as I love it, he kind of plays like a colonizer. He kind of plays this like character, like he's really abusive to like the natives.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever he shoots, and so it's kind of like I don't know, it's wild though, but like he has so many wild stories.
Yeah, he's definitely
that,
like a pure
oh,
art kind of guy. Like I feel like him and
Yeah.
Lars von Trier would be good friends.
Oh, dude, 100%.
You know,
yeah,
like
they're
he's
not, they're not already. I don't know.
Yeah,
Lars
he-
von Trier doesn't leave his home, so who knows?
Who knows? But
Yeah.
like he definitely is the kind of guy that's just like, you know, the ends justify the means when it comes to production. Like people talk about like Kubrick being a fucking asshole to like all his actors to get performances, and Herzog's like that, but like with the entire production. And he's just like, we're just gonna
But
go
he-
out and we're just gonna fucking like make this movie.
But he gets himself right in the middle of it. So I don't.
He does
you know, it's like-
everything.
and it's
Every
nothing-
he
nothing
does
to be saying
every
that
stunt.
He is a madman.
Yeah, he does every stunt. Like if someone's afraid to do a stunt, he'll do it. Like he's like, I'll fucking do it first just to show you, like I'm there with you, man. Like
Right, and he'll be He like
it's
and that-
it's
dude,
dangerous,
so
but
wild.
you gotta respect it, kind of though. You know what I
It's
mean?
respect,
Something
sure.
about
Yeah.
Herzog, like he's gotta.
But
It's
I love that.
morally questionable, but sometimes, but
Yeah, and it elicits huge emotions from you. Like
Oh, yeah.
the opening shot when they're coming down, and it's like you can see them going through the mud, and it becomes like a narrative, and it's like that's Herzog's like style. I love it so much. Like he apparently has a master class, and I'm kind of like, oh, that'd be kind of fun to watch. But he talks about how like he doesn't storyboard, and he barely writes a script, because when he gets there, he's like I write an outline, I'll get like a script, and then I'll just go and I'll let the environment
Yeah.
kind of build the story.
I mean, with
and so
his-
like it's like them treachering through, they're like, oh, the mud, and like they have to change their route and stuff, you know, and it's so cool.
yeah, his filmography is like 2/3 documentaries, and that totally shows in this movie. And like that's how I knew him originally. I've seen more of his documentaries. You know, I started with Grizzly Man probably, but it's like I didn't even really know he did feature films, but it shows because it's like, yeah, he gets there and he makes the time and the place just as much of, you know, and that's maybe cliche to say, but it's like just as much of a character as anything in the script.
Right.
Because the way he sees cinema really kind of goes through into the final product in a way that makes him unique, where it's just like, you know, he's got the long shots. It's very much about like, you know, he spends like 2 full minutes just showing the raging river early on. They're like, we can't cross that, we'll die. And it's just like,
I love
just
dude, and it's that score though.
It's-
that freaking score was beautiful. Like, and that again, that is what really resonated with me and Cannibal Holocaust.
yeah. That was the other thing
score.
too, is the score. It was
Oh my god, the score is so sick, and I love in this movie how, like in Cannibal Holocaust, like they get more like up close and personal with like the tribes and like with, you know, the actual like natives. And in this, I like how like it's focusing so heavily on like their perspective that like there are times where you don't even know if somebody's dead, and then they'll just kind of show them on the boat and they're like just laying there, and you're like, oh fuck, someone like died. Like they're so hidden, and they know the land so well, and it's so cool because it's like you don't have to establish that with like going the tribe and them running around and them being like you know, smart on the bank, you know, and making plans. All you have to do is just show them for 2 seconds, and then they get arrowed down and they're dead, or you show them get trapped. You know, that guy who gets like the drawstring trap or whatever it's called, the thing. It's that trap, and he goes up, and it's so cool how they're like hidden and smart. And then the one time you actually get somebody on there, it's so cool because he talks about like who they are, you know, and there's like the translator and stuff, and they're, you know, whatever, they worship the sun, and that's who they are, and they said that you guys would come and be saviors. But it's so cool because they totally are not. They're gonna die, and then they're gonna take the riches, because that gold around his neck is totally from another. It's totally from somebody else trying to come through to find El Dorado.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, at least that's my interpretation.
I got that too, kind of, where it's just
I totally feel like, and the ship, because it's like the shipwreck is like where they get supplies, you know, and that's how they know of like weapons and they know of like the.
Well, it's like definitely they're
the
definitely
natives know.
It's interesting how they kind of portray the natives because it's like they're not they're antagonists because several times they're like they're cannibals and they even are like they're shouting from the shore and they're like what they're saying and they're saying it's meat meat going down the river meat.
Dude, no.
And I'm like,
what
that's
did it say?
terrifying. That's not what you want to hear. But they're like, no, we're conquerors, and they're
Yeah,
like,
dude, it's meat is floating by. That's
Yeah.
what it says.
It's like,
meat
you
is floating
know-
by. I'm like, that'd be a sick in a music video or something.
I started a
Like
band
that.
called Meat is Floating By.
No, dude, yeah, that's such a good
But,
sound drop.
It's like they're so fearless of the tribes that are obviously a clear and present danger, and then like you said with the gold, which is almost like they didn't manufacture that. Like it was definitely like something that was manufactured. And but it's like the cannibalistic tribes, they don't care. The fucking literally the force of nature, the 2-minute shot of the raging river, but they're like, nope, we are conquerors. We're gonna just take it over. And I'm just like the amount of hubris is crazy because you do feel that, like their confidence. It feels dreamy, but you're watching it from like, an audience perspective and being like, holy shit, like how are they chill, man? Like I'd be freaking out. You know what I mean? Like
I watched it from the perspective as the 26th man back with just my shitty dinky hat and like my spear, and I'm just kind of like, well, I'm here because like I was born into this, and it's something more noble than just like I guess working on like a mud farm back home or something. Like it's just like I'm here because like I'm drafted into this and I'm doing this, and it's just like that's how I watch this movie. Is like I'm part of them, and I'm just like, but I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't have aspirations to find El Dorado. Like I kind of do.
Choice.
Sometimes he gets you convinced.
Yeah, he has no choice but to
Like,
believe. So it's like you may as well, because he does these rousing speeches about glory and riches.
Right.
And you're like, in the back of your mind, you're like, fuck, I'm trapped here anyway. If I fucking desert, they're just going to chop my head off. So you convince yourself, like, yeah, riches. Yeah, cool. Like, let's do it. And yet you're just like, oh, I'm going down this river. I guess we have cannons, thank God. But, like, whatever. It's interesting because, like, I said it a little bit in my Reddit. You all right? You making it?
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to strangle me real quick through the camera.
No, getcha. No, that explains it. I was like breaking up and like,
Oh,
but,
gotcha.
Now we're back together.
But it's interesting because while I was watching this, I kind of didn't know how to feel. Like I was digging it, but I was having kind of a hard time just because my like attention. Like I was digging it, but I wasn't fully immersed.
And you also were you watching with Gat?
Yeah, we were watching on the Discord, which obviously
on the Discord that kind of makes it a little trickier. This is definitely a movie that like warrants your full attention. Like I watched it headphones on, I was in it. I was in that sound design and everything.
I was getting into it. I was distracted. We'll get to the sound design here in a sec because that was my biggest distraction and the most unfortunate I think about this movie holding it back.
Can I tell you about the sound design?
Yeah,
and
no.
The like obstacles they went through. It's so cool.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. But like, the movie ended and I was like, that was pretty good. I don't know how to feel about it though because I feel like for its time it was amazing, but I need to think about it more to answer if it still feels like if it still kind of stands up as this art piece. But I watched this like a couple days ago and I've been thinking about it ever since. Like I can't get it out of my head. And the more I marinate in it, the more I'm just like, this movie feels better as a memory almost, where it's just like, it feels like this fucking doomed conquest through the jungle, like in the rear view, kind of like we've talked about that before, where it's just like a movie compresses in your mind and it like works better as a memory sometimes. And so it's like, but when it first ended, I was like, yeah, that was pretty cool, but I probably won't watch it again. And then like a few days later, I'm like, I can't stop thinking about this movie, man. This fucking fever dream of a movie. Like I'm definitely gonna watch it again one day. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just interesting how it's kind of like changed. Because I told Gat, I was like, yeah, I'd probably give this a 3 stars, and then it's gone up a full star since I said that. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd.
And I just finished it today, and I think I only gave it 3.5. And now, like in the last like 4 hours between finishing it, I'm like it should. Yeah, I'm like 4, but I'm like maybe even 5. It's just like for how, like for everything. Like I immediately started listening to the soundtrack. I just had the soundtrack playing because it's like super sick. And then it's just like this is a film that I probably at 16 would have been bored as hell. You know, would have like, I don't know. I just don't know if I would have been into it. I would have probably felt like, okay, this is like cinematically important, whatever. But like, I don't know, watching it now, I was in it. I was in the mood for this.
Yeah.
And like, I loved like, I don't know. I really like narration. Obviously, we've discussed this before. I'm a sucker for narration, and so like the narration was so cool. And I don't know who was the author of the narration, because he discusses like, and the men all got sick and they tried to drink my ink, and so now my pen's dried up, and I was just like, fuck yeah, that's such a good way
I
to
like
end
that
the
too,
narration.
yeah, because then it
I was
just
like,
that's
holy
it.
crap. It's dude, that's elevated, man. That is like this movie is way ahead of its time, and I don't think you can make a movie like this, because it's just, I don't know, the energy of it, it feels youthful, like, you know.
Well, and it translates like there's a lot of movies that try to emulate like a rawness, but it's just like it translates from it, that it really, this movie really feels like lightning in a bottle, even though it's funny because it's like technically like a period piece made in the 70s about a bunch of German guys playing a bunch of Spanish guys,
playing a bunch of Spanish guys, but it feels so authentic.
It
dude.
does.
It's wild how
It
authentic.
does.
It's not even close to authentic. Like none of the costuming or anything. It's just cool looking, and it's like he literally just got the costumes for free from like a Ren Fair guy, like a dude that does like costumes for like Ren Fairs. And so it's like, but apparently it's like it is actually based on a quote unquote true story.
Yeah.
I think that's really
He's like
cool.
a real guy, Aguirre, and he really went rogue to look for El Dorado, and that's kind of where it ends. But
he took like 300 men. But dude, no. It wasn't even that he like rogue to go El Dorado. He like rogued to go like conquer,
like take over and go like a whole.
Take over and like I don't even. God, I can't remember where it was, but he like wanted to go and be like, well, all right, I'm gonna take. And it was like it was funded by the government too. Like they gave him. They gave him the men to go do this expedition, and then he took them, and he's like, well, I'm gonna take this little army that I have now and try to take over the government. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
It's cool that it's like it truly does that. I mean, I think that's like that. These are my favorite kind of like period pieces. It doesn't have to be true history. I don't know. It's like
I'm just vibing on. I want more movies like dudes and like I like the Inquisition, and I like this like medieval kind of like out of their element, because it honestly. We kind of haven't done this in a while, but like, other than Cannibal Holocaust, it reminded me of this other movie I've been telling you about before called Hard to Be a God. In not that many ways, like Hard to Be a God is like, it's like a medieval movie about this. It's like technically sci-fi, but not really. But it's like about these people from Earth observing this medieval planet that never evolved past the the Renaissance, so they're just like stuck in this perpetual shitty medieval period of plague and shit and stuff. And it's like, it's got a vibe similar, like they're totally different movies, but like this vibe of like this surrealness in this like slightly like this medieval time period does it for me. You know, I don't know, something about that just really does it for me. You know what I mean? And it's like this movie, because this movie is definitely like, it's not like surreal in the way where it's like, oh, it's like psychedelic or something, but like it really does. I've said this before about other movies, but it really does feel like a fever dream. Like it does, like, I don't know. Like I feel by the end of it, like I'm dying on that boat. And I'm like, is this, like, they're like, I don't know if they're hallucinating. The only person that's like Aguirre is like, no, those are real arrows, you fucking idiots.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. He's just like, I don't feel the arrows. I don't feel, you know, there is nothing. There is no arrow, you know? And he's like, and I love, dude, that like, it opens with like, you know, it's shot on the guy, and he's talking about, he's like, I see a boat, you know, with big sails and a canoe following it.
Yeah, you think he's like,
and then like
dreaming
you think
it,
he's
and then
completely hallucinating. Then it cuts to the boat, and you're like, oh, that's so
there
cool.
it is, yeah.
And like, it's totally like, it's like the Coen brothers totally stole that. Like, it's got like, there's some of that in Oh Brother Where Art Thou and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a very influential film, and I know Herzog's like, I know he's influential, but I didn't realize like he's huge, dude. Like he's everywhere, and he's
because back in the day I'd always been like, I literally have been like, oh yeah, he makes those good documentaries, and then every time I see one of his features, I'm like, oh, he did that too, I guess. Like for the longest time I didn't even know he did features, because I knew him from like Grizzly Man and like Cave of Forgotten Dreams, and then like Into the Abyss or whatever.
I knew him from documentaries, so yes, finding him here, but it's like I only saw Little Dieter Needs to Fly, and I was like, oh, cool, and and then I saw Rescue Dawn, and I was like, it's so weird. I saw Grizzly Man too, and it's like that's where I was kind of like Rescue Dawn's not that great, but
No,
it's not,
but
it's not terrible, but it's kind of funny that so like going back, I'm like, oh my god, like his narratives are amazing. I really want to like.
Well, he's all over the place. He
watch.
did the fucking Bad Lieutenant remake.
Right, Nick Cage, right?
With Nick Cage, and I'm like, I've seen like a
didn't-
scene from that, and I kind of liked it. But now, I'm kind of feeling this Herzog train, man. I want to watch like Fitzcarraldo really bad, and I want to watch like a couple of other of his movies really bad now. Like, but
No, maybe we'll do it next year. We'll do like a director month again.
yeah, do like a week and do Herzog. Yeah, maybe
Dude, he did a crazy one. So for this movie, he was gonna take a plane and to like Peru or whatever. And
I saw
dude,
it.
so he was gonna take the plane. He didn't take the plane. It crashed, killed everyone except one woman. And then, like 20 years later, he did a documentary about her.
Yeah, and they like
so
went
there's
through. It's funny because I knew that story pretty well already.
What the fuck? That's
Because
amazing.
the plane got hit by lightning, and she's
right.
she's the only person it came across on Reddit of like the longest free fall that was ever survived is how I heard about it originally, and it's because she fell from the plane and fell in the mud and then like walked 20 miles out of the jungle as like a 17-year-old, and so I knew that story already. And then when I heard Werner Herzog was supposed to be on that plane, and then he made a documentary and like went into the jungle with her and made her recreate the whole thing, and they like saw the wreckage and everything. I'm like, oh man, now I really want to see it because I'm like, that sounds fucking insane. Like, I don't know.
And that sounds like that is Herzog, dude. Like Herzog's in the level of like Gaspar Noé and like Lars von Trier. Like he's in that level of like being so extreme. Like I mean, I guess he kind of started it, honestly. I mean, I know other directors before him have probably done crazy things, but I feel like he is the most consistent on his.
It's
I don't know. It's like he just like he lives that legend. Like he's like a I don't know, an adventurer.
I wish I had this quote in front of me because I don't remember exactly how it went. But like, it's interesting that he had a master class because he said this thing about like, like film academics, like people that like obsess over film and like the nuts and bolts of it. It's like are fucking dead. Because film is more about the passion, and like just if you have the passion, it's like there's no passion in that. Like you have to go and just fucking get. That's not what cinema's about. You get in there and it's the nitty gritty. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. In an interview, he was talking about that where he's like I hear some of the most well-renowned directors who are getting millions of dollars for their budgets complain about not getting enough money, and Herzog's like, no, just go make your movie. Like go do it. Like he's like, shut up and do it. And that's what Herzog does. He just goes and he does it. It's like it doesn't whatever budget it is.
He said like so there was the one guy, God, another famous documentarian, I forget his fucking name, but he made this documentary and Herzog was like, I'll eat my shoe if you finish this documentary. And then the guy did, and then so Herzog is a man of his word.
And he filmed him eating his shoe.
And so he ate his shoe, and they made a documentary about it, and he said, well, not only do I hate cowards or whatever, but also this is a testament to other aspiring filmmakers that to just get it done. Just fucking go out there and just power through. And
the fact he hasn't
you
died
can
is
do
why.
nothing, or you know what I mean? It's like you can get snagged up and not finish it, or you can just say fuck it and do something, and it's a product of its time and place and art, and then move on. I don't know. It's like it's kind of inspiring. I don't know. Something it is inspiring. Werner Herzog ate his shoe just because he's like, yeah, finish your shit, principles. Like cinema, baby.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's he's.
This isn't the Werner Herzog podcast. This
I know.
I know.
Well, I feel like this movie's kind of like.
This is like his big breakout, though. It's not his,
and that's cool. Yeah.
It's not his debut, but this is the one that like put him on the map internationally.
Right, and it shows. I feel like it's artistic. It pushes the boundaries. Like the performance. I mean, the performance he gets out of Klaus Kinski's one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in my life. I really like. It's like Joaquin Phoenix is wants to eat his own shoe because he's so jealous.
I know he does.
Dude, yeah. I was like, Klaus Kinski did it first. did the Joaquin Phoenix like gait and just that like
he did kind of
broken body.
Yeah. Let's take a minute to
And then-
talk
yeah.
about this movie. So it's like, I really like this movie. It's really raw. You could talk from a technical standpoint if it's not like, steady. There's no good dolly shots or whatever. But like the actual only thing that I think hurts this movie for me, and I mean, it makes sense with its production, is all the audio and all the ADR. It didn't really bother me that much watching it. It did take me out of it sometimes, but it bothered me more after the fact when I was reading about it.
Dude.
About how like they had recorded it all and they're actually all speaking in English.
English,
But
right?
then they recorded it all in a German dub because all the audio was useless, and then the voice wasn't even Klaus Kinski. It's voiced by some totally other guy. And I'm
Wild. I got it. His name's Gerd Martinsen.
Gerd, yeah.
And he but apparently he did it so
good.
well
Yeah, it's
that
really
not
good.
a single person knew.
yeah, it's
Nobody
really good.
nobody knew.
And I'm like, I know
like-
how Klaus Kinski sounds, so I'm like, I was like, it
Yeah.
sounds like him. I think, like I mean,
Right.
I don't know intimately or whatever, but
Exactly. Yeah, we
but
don't know
yeah,
the German
it
language,
sounded pretty good, and it wasn't that distracting because the movie was very much like you said. It's very like they knew it, and so a lot of it was filmed. Like a lot of the dialogue is happening off camera. A lot of the dialogue
Right.
is happening in voiceover, like you said. And when they're talking, like only Klaus Kinski when he's given like his speech, and there's even the part when he looks the whole big speech like I am the wrath of God. If I wanted, the birds would fall dead from these trees, and he's looking like right into the camera.
right in the camera. I knew, dude. The second this movie started, I was like, "Oh, someone's gonna look directly into the camera." I knew it. I knew for a fact.
You're
there
like,
was
this
gonna
is
be a monologue.
one of those. Yep.
It's like, yeah, I knew that.
It is. I don't know. It's funny, but like, there's a part of me that's just like, oh man, if they could have just had a good, because like, the ADR and all the recreation of the Foley was not bad by any means. It was pretty fucking solid, especially for the time, which I hate to kind of say. You know what I mean? It's like for the time.
Oh, but it's like you
But it-
kind of
but
have
it
to say for
holds
the time because it was all analog. It's all
Yeah.
they didn't have a fucking Adobe file that they could just click and they could go Foley and find 10,000
Yeah.
forest sounds.
Well,
it's
and
like they literally
the
had
budget,
to
like it's not
recreate
like it's not like they had a bunch of fucking like a whole team of guys at a fucking studio in Hollywood making the sounds after the fact perfectly.
Right. So I'm like, I think it. I know what you're saying, but I don't think it takes me out of it. Or I don't think it like.
No, the
That
other
shouldn't
time
dissuade anybody
is
out there in
is
the world. It's
fine because it's like
watch
it could
it.
only
It's great.
be of the time, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that they did, because the whole time watching, I'm like, this is 100% re-recorded post audio. Like obviously, and what I know about film, I'm like, this is 100%. Every ounce of this, which makes sense because I'm like, oh, they probably just have fucking a camera on a river. They don't want to fucking deal with audio. You know what I mean? They're like, we'll just get it in
funny
post.
that they did though.
But
Like they
that's-
did try to shoot 100%
Knowing
audio.
that
which
they
is kinda
did
dumb,
hurts
though,
me
'cause it-
now because I'm like,
Right.
I wish I could have.
I'm curious what it sounds like. I wonder if it
Even if it sounds like
yeah.
absolute shit, like I wish there was
Yeah.
like a version out there with the original audio, just because that's even more raw, baby. You know what I mean? Like,
I bet Criterion would have it. If anyone has it, I'm sure
Maybe.
it's out there.
yeah,
Look it up,
I'd hope
but-
so. But like things like that, like you said, it's all analog. It gets lost to time, man. It's literally exists on a fucking couple reels of fucking tape from some DAT machine, and who knows? It probably just got thrown
and
away.
and
You know what I mean?
It's like it's real film compressed. It could have just gotten ruined too.
Yeah.
It's like
But that was like
ruins
that's like
hardware.
my one regret, where I'm like, I wish I could have experienced that, like knowing, like it was almost worse knowing that they did record it and it was lost, and then they decided to re-record it in German, which is fine. But like I'm like, oh man, I like knowing that they had it. I don't know, because it seemed like watching it, which is good because it seemed like a purposeful decision. Because I was like, oh, they just didn't bring an audio recording device because they're packing light, baby. They're in the jungle. This is fucking nitty gritty. Like, sure, they're not gonna want to do all this. It's like low budget. There's probably since it's international, there's probably people speaking different languages, so they're like, fuck it, we're just gonna dub the whole thing.
Well,
Like they used to
that was
do
the
that
funny-
all the time.
But that was the funny thing is English was the only language that everybody
Which
knew.
is insane. That it's just like
so
they
wild.
recorded the whole thing in fucking English, you know?
yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
It's like a German production playing Spanish conquistadors speaking in English. It's so weird. It makes me wonder
so
when
wild.
we
Like-
do like when Americans do like like fucking historical movies or whatever that are in like another language, but we do it all in English. I wonder if other countries are like, what the fuck? Because at first I was like, wow, there's these Germans like doing this, and I'm like, wow, we do it all the time when we make
We
movies.
do, exactly. No, and that's and I think that's why it like, and it works.
It's just kind of interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
But to
It's
learn
like,
that they
I
did
don't
it
know.
in English too, kind of was like a little mind blowing. I was like, what the hell? Like,
I know, so weird, and it's like it's cool too because like all the natives that actually participated in the movie, those like the whatever 150, 200 extras that they used, if not more, it's like they all just like brought their own stuff, and like there were translators, and they were like probably just having fun shooting the movie. There's a couple shots where they're on the raft, and when they're like coming down the Amazon, and it's like you can see people kind of smiling and like not, they're like shooting the shit and talking. So sometimes that happens, but it's just like you could tell he was probably shooting as much as he could. But I wonder how many cameras were on set, because it's like I don't, man. Yeah, if not that, if like it
He
was
said-
just literally the one.
I think it
know
was
he
just
said
the one, but it
it's just
does
the one.
it does feel
It feels
because it
yeah,
feels like a
feels
documentary
shot
crew.
So good, dude. It's shot so good then. Like I mean, and it's like, and it's cool because the continuity doesn't really matter, but like you don't need the continuity because like you're just it all blends. It's all the same kind of scenery, and so I actually was like talking about somewhere on Reddit or something how like this feels like a 24-hour movie. This like feels like a one-room movie where you're just like the whole scenery's all the same.
Yeah, you're
and so
really
the continuity,
contained on there, yeah.
right? Yeah, you feel really trapped on the river, and so it's just like
Well,
yeah,
that
so good
that
shot
adds
of it.
the like weird sense of time. I think really adds to the dreamlike feel,
Yeah.
because every time the voiceover would be like,
The
we've
narrator's
been
like, it's
on the
like
river for like 50 days or whatever. They're like,
yeah, well, right.
well, they're like,
at the end, yeah.
because they left on like New Year's Day or whatever, and then they're like, he's like February 12th, or whatever, and it's just like, so they've been on there for like 2 months or something. But yeah, it feels everything like the sun. It's like it's never nighttime really.
Yeah,
It's
right.
always the sun's just in the sky, and it's just like shooting with natural light. Like it's, I don't know, like it does feel very spontaneous, and I think at that low budget, this is another perfect example of like your budget. It like forces you to think creatively and kind of like does that and ends up creating kind of this magic, because it's like, if this was like, a $10 million movie and they had like fucking lights and like all this kind of shit, multiple cameras, and they had like a fucking boat set, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
It just like wouldn't be the same, and so it's just like the low budget really added to like what they had to do, which encapsulates you and gets you sucked into the movie even more, and it's great. I don't know, it's really great. And it's just like, I don't know, all the themes of the movie, and it's just like watching these characters.
I mean,
do
yeah,
all
I don't,
this
it's
is-
like, I don't even have time really.
I'm
to
not
get into
I'm
that,
not
like,
smart enough to know, but like
Yeah.
to
Oh,
know
right.
fully, like I guarantee you there's
Yeah, I
like
haven't-
some scholar out there that's like, well, this is the perfect parallel to this in history, and this scholar, this like
right.
the
Well,
way
and,
with
like,
colonialism and everything,
exactly, yeah, and the actual like I'm sure there's like a lot of like
it's a
little
it's a
details.
metaphor for drug abuse, I don't know.
or the like the religious abuse. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how like their convictions to God. I mean, the movie's called Wrath of God, so it's like their convictions to God like is what really drives them, and it gives them that like,
Well,
holier than thou
like
purpose.
exactly. It's like
they're
this is
allowed
a
to be
higher purpose,
Right.
and always used as a tool to get what they want. You know what I mean? It's always like God, and even the priest, who is like you earlier on, you think is like one of the more sympathetic characters because he's like caring for everyone, but he's just like, hey, first and foremost, we're here to bring our religion to these savages or whatever. And they're
Exactly.
they're like,
That's-
you lost your silver cross. Wouldn't you want rather a gold cross adorned in jewels? And he's like, oh yeah. And then they kill the guy for blaspheming the Bible. Like immediately, they just like, kill him, blasphemy. Like,
Yeah, dude, and that's such a good like little detail is when they talk about how it speaks of you can hear the word of God in the book, and
he literally like puts it to his ear. He's like, I don't
you
hear
know,
shit.
and then yeah, he's like, I don't hear
It's just a
anything.
hunk of fucking paper, man. Like,
Right, yeah, and like
Which-
that misunderstanding,
Which
like,
is
so
great because
realistic.
they're just like so driven by this like purpose and their own values, and it's like the fucking they elected Guzmez or whatever, the fucking emperor, and he's just like eating all the fish and fucking while everyone
right,
else is
yeah.
counting, like he's got like 10 grains of rice because they're starving, and he's like, this is my land, and it's just like I don't know, it's
I love it.
It's
I
horrible.
Yeah, I love like
it's that it's like that's how it is. It's great though.
it's a good movie. I
it's
can tell
pretty
you a
good.
little. I mean,
It's pretty good.
you
Give me-
you got the money minute today.
I
You
didn't
got a little
get
bit.
into the deep. I know it was like just shy of 400,000, right?
Right. It's 400,000.
Which
there
is
like,
super
Oh,
low.
it's-
It's so low.
which is a super low budget, and like it's kind of weird because it's like it could be more, it could be less. Obviously, that's kind of how all film productions are. But with this one, it's more like that's what like at the end of the day, what the time and what the cost of production, like that's kind of what they assumed. But it like probably costs a little bit more just with like all scouting production and all like him all doing the pre-pro.
Yeah.
But then he also does a lot of pre-pro just on his own and like through connections that he has. So it's like kind of this weird, like he's like, he's got a vision. And so he's a really good talker. Like he'll just get into things by just asking.
Right.
Like, that's his biggest thing. It's like you just ask people for it. And most people are fucking down to be in a movie. They're down to do a movie. Just the idea of doing it. And that's something we learned in film school is like, you go and you just ask somebody, hey, can I use this like house? Can I come here? And people are usually like, oh, you're making a movie? That's cool. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
like, you kind of get into places and you
Yeah.
don't really have to pay for anything. And
We
so,
have to get
Yeah.
we filmed in that fucking convenience store. I didn't give a fuck. Like, you know what I mean? All those places. You just gotta ask, set it up.
right.
You know
I
what I
love
mean?
it. Yeah, you just show up and ask. That's his style.
Well, that's the thing.
yeah, and then
I think that's
and
the thing.
there's no gross. There is no.
Oh, how much it
grossed
made?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it like online it says that it had a limited release and it only made like $30,000. So but it's
Over-
cemented in time and it's made money.
Yeah, they said there was like a cult classic in other countries and stuff, and it's like, how do you like in South America? Apparently, it did really great eventually, and it's
Yeah.
like I don't know how.
that's the thing,
How do you keep track of that? You know what I mean?
Right. So you
Obviously-
can't really, 'cause it doesn't, like, there wasn't home video.
Yeah, obviously its
Really?
legacy is cemented. I mean, we're talking about it now, and a lot of filmmakers I've known after I didn't really know much about this movie, but it's like, yeah, it's been super influential. It inspired a lot of like, we didn't even talk about how similar it is to fucking Apocalypse Now.
Right, and that's I mean, Polanski, or I mean,
Coppola.
Coppola, thanks. He was like, totally, that's 100%. He's not shy about it. He's just
I was
like,
even
it
a
is.
lot of war, the more quote unquote artsier, meditative war movies, because I was also thinking of like Malik's The Thin Red Line. Like it had like a similar kind of like
Yeah, totally.
Lost in the Jungle. There's even the line of
Through the
like Lost in
Jungle.
the Heart of Darkness, which is like they talk
Yeah.
about in Apocalypse Now. So it's interesting. I don't know. It's a very interesting film that I'm really glad we watched.
I know.
Because now I'm
Now-
like, I want to get into it because like I have much
wanna
more
watch
of an
the kids fall out of it
appreciation.
now.
Me too. I have much more of an appreciation for Herzog because, like we said, it's like they're great directors, and then there are great filmmakers, and he does everything. You know what I mean? It's like he is getting there, boots on the ground. He's fucking shooting it sometimes. He's fucking doing the producing. Like he's making shit happen, and it's like no disrespect, but some people are just directors. You know what I mean? Some directors are great, but it's like this becomes his whole vision because it's like such this small, low budget thing. They like it makes it happen. So anyway, I got a Reddit or two. So let me see.
Let's hear from these fine folks.
Oops. Okay. So
And we have a Travis as well.
Oh, I was wondering if he did or not. I saw he watched it on Letterboxd, but I don't know if he called. So, Clones Are People Too says, first watch of this last night, and I quite liked it. I was expecting something bonkers, so I was quite surprised that it was more Apocalypse Now than it was Holy Mountain. Can you imagine?
Nice.
This film, imagine if Hodorowski made this movie. This film has a mesmerizing, dreamlike quality that's really enhanced by the score and the pacing. And just like the river, the film just seemed to flow. I found myself very distracted at times thinking about how awful this must have been to film. Balanced on a raft, feet in water, surrounded by madmen for a few weeks. Speaking of madmen, Kinski is magnetic and commands the screen with force, but I think he's a real case of separating the art from the artist. There's some serious allegations against him, and he seems like an absolute lunatic, but also such a great actor. I love the ending, so absurd and hilarious. What a downfall. I look forward to watching it, rewatching. 9 out of 10.
Oh yeah, dude.
Thank you for that.
And what's the symbolism with the monkeys, man? I don't know what it is, but I love it.
I don't know.
Whatever,
it's just
whatever
like
it's like. It's just being overrun by nature again. Like, is that?
Yeah,
nature's such a huge theme in this movie.
Yeah,
and I just feel like it's so cool how they think that with their god they can like basically defeat the other gods, like defeat everything. And
if they're just righteous enough, then it won't matter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's like, he's doing his big speech. The monkeys is so cool.
You know what's hilarious though about the monkeys? He Werner Herzog he like lies up his ass. He told they brought the monkeys in, and he told them he was a veterinarian so that he could. And he told them he was a veterinarian, and so they couldn't ship the monkeys back because it would cost a lot of money. So he just let them go in the forest. And so, Werner Herzog, he's not a beacon of righteousness.
That is a thing in this film also that was giving me Cannibal Holocaust vibes. But that's unfortunately the 70s were notorious for is the animal abuse.
Oh, the animal abuse, that poor horse. Yeah, everything.
It's like, but that tiny cute little sloth, buddy. That little sloth was so adorable.
That had such there was. Oh damn it!
I know we didn't even talk about his daughter and the weird, he's over there scheming and killing, but then he's got the daughter that's just this core of innocence. If I preserve this core of innocence, then I am still a righteous man. You know.
And I think that's why I'm pretty sure that's why he brought her, is so that it gives him it gives him something to
not only outwardly, but he can still convince himself what he's doing is for the good. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Even though he just ends up getting her killed too. So.
I
think the monkeys.
And that's the moral of you can't.
I didn't.
Can't defeat nature, but.
Right. I didn't mention the opening shot is amazing, but the fucking closing shot blew my dick off because that was the one because it's not only so he's got all the monkeys, he's still purely delusional, just being everyone's dead but him. He's overrun by monkeys, basically fucking not. He's infested with monkeys, and he's I'm gonna go out and we're gonna conquer everything, and I'm gonna be the emperor. And it's dude, you are alone in the jungle in the Amazon, thousands of miles away from anyone. Other than cannibals that want to eat you, you know what I mean? And and then the one time, because the whole time, the camera, like we said, it's right there, it's with you. There's some wide shots, but everything is just feels really close. But then that camera comes sweeping down the river,
dude,
just
flying
down, it feels angelic because it's he's left his body, I don't know, but it comes down and then it just fucking swirls around him as he's just on this raft and there's all these corpses and all these monkeys, and it's just
it's beautiful.
He has summoned in it's I don't know, the skies have opened and the angels have came down to prove that yes, in fact, he is the wrath of God. Was great. I don't know. That was the moment it ended on a really high note for me. I really liked it. So one more Reddit, and I know we're getting kind of long in the tooth, but the opposite perspective. I want to read it. So Turbo13 says, "God awful, haha. I was aboard the struggle bus watching this movie. Maybe I just don't have the artsy tooth for movies yet, but I'd rather watch MASH from last week.
Don't say that.
As far as technicalities, this movie was way better than MASH, but this week this dog was just ugly and not so ugly it was cute. 1.1 out of 5, and only because the editing was all right." Thank you. This movie's not for everyone. This movie is absolutely not for everyone. So you're not wrong.
I do like it. We're getting him indoctrinated, kind of speed run too. This is not a movie. It's this is a movie. It's you'd go to film school and watch this movie because you're I'm interested in kind of getting intense into films.
And the history and the dreamy fucking blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah, it's like I've my coworkers. I'm not gonna suggest this to any of them. I'm not,
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't
I'm like-
recommend this to any of my friends.
I have one coworker that she watches some like really intense stuff, and so I'd be like, okay, this is the one I would. Well, you watch it.
Yeah, I'm
They
sad
probably hate
that
it, though. I don't know.
I'm sad Thomas didn't end up putting it on there. We'll have to see. I mean, he should put it on the Reddit if he does, because he had seen this movie. That's where I remember hearing about it from the first time, and I didn't realize it till he said that. But he'd watched this movie years ago because he really likes Werner Herzog, and I think he took a German class, so he kind of got into it. And that he was the one who picked Nosferatu the Vampire back when we watched that. He picked that movie. And so he was kind of really into it, and he wrote a whole paper about this movie, about Aguirre. And he says, he asked, he said, when are you guys recording the podcast? And I was like, well, we're going to record it on Wednesday. And he's like, okay, I got to find my paper and put it on there so you can have it on the podcast. But he sucks. So hopefully
if he posts it on the Reddit, we'll have it there. And
I hope he will. Anyway, so let me pull up Travis's right quick. And so stall for me while I do that.
The way that Klaus Kinski gripped that monkey, I was so frightened he was going to take a bite out of it.
Like an apple or something?
I like literally, like for just a second, my stomach dropped because I was like, all right, get ready for this. This motherfucker's just going to mouth this fucking monkey, dude.
Well, dude, like, they're like, obviously this isn't as like horrific as like Cannibal Holocaust with the animal cruelty.
Right. I kept waiting for it.
I kept waiting for it though, because it did feel, and because I kept being reminded of Cannibal Holocaust. But it's like that poor horse that they kept falling off the raft, and then they just shoved him, and they just that shot where it's just like they just left the poor horse behind, and he's just like,
yeah, it was heartbreaking.
But what about me? I'm like, oh my god.
He's talking to his daughter later, and he's like, the horse will be fine. Don't worry about that horse is dead as hell.
So dead. Well, and the fact that they're all starving on this boat, and
know,
he literally says that was kind of like the nail in the coffin. The one guy's like, that could have been a lot of meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, I got his thing. So.
Hey guys, I got two questions for you today. A small one and a big one. First, a small one. How do you think they filmed that final scene where the camera is circling the raft? It seemed pretty steady for being in a canoe or small boat. And the big one is, in my opinion, a movie like this can never be made again, with all the protections for actors and even human rights for the extras that we have now. I'm referring to the opening scene where all those people are walking up and down the cliff, and it appears to be wet also. It looks so dangerous. Then there's the treatment of animals in this movie. I'm not sure about you two, but watching that horse struggle on the raft made me uncomfortable. Plus, the monkey throw at the end probably wouldn't be tolerated nowadays. Then there's the shooting incident by leading actor Kinski, where he went off the rails one night and shot real bullets into the extras' tent, hitting one of them. I think that would be huge headlines today, resulting in jail time, hopefully. So my question is, do you think it's good that a movie like this will be stuck in the past, or would you like to see less restrictions in movies moving forward to push the boundaries of what's possible? Thanks.
That is a big question. Thanks, Travis.
That's a big one.
We kind of answered your other ones a little bit because, like, that shot was actually just held by angels, man. I don't even know how they got it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it just like, honestly, it just threw it on sticks, and you have that momentum going, and you don't stop. It's like
they had like a speedboat or something, but like, but I was like, there wasn't really any like huge waves that like took away from it, so they must have been really zoomed in or something. But like, that's why it was so impressive to me too, because it was like it was so unlike the cinematography of the rest of the movie that it really stood out. Because obviously it was a deliberate choice. I mean, filmmaking is deliberate usually, but like. It really stood out to me because I'm sure they just had like a speedboat or something, you know what I mean? And then we're just like flying along. But I'm like, man, I don't know. Because it's so fast and it's not like sped up because it's like the monkeys are just crawling around on there. But they're like fucking flying around this thing. But
they fly right around it, baby. I mean, it honestly could have been sped up a little bit, but
maybe a smidge.
That monkey grab, dude, was it just? I know I just mentioned it 2 seconds ago, but like he just grabbed it, dude. Just like him even just grabbing the monkey. I'm like, I don't know if you could do that.
I thought for sure. No, I really doubt it. They don't even use real monkeys anymore in a lot of shit.
It'd all been CG. I mean, that's what's wild is like It's like the whole time I'm like watching that monkey, and I'm like, my brain is like, that is a real life. Like this whole ship is literally
Hundreds
like,
of monkeys.
there's like 400 monkeys they just put on this stupid ship, and now I'm like, he's just grabbing them. Like, it's
And they're
wild.
just
I'm like,
a lot of them are just jumping in the water and definitely dying and drowning. Like there's no way. Like,
right. Or they could probably swim, right? I guess.
I know, but like
Swim.
for a fact, like at least a quarter of those monkeys fucking died.
Well, I mean, they got thrown into the woods and left to
dipped.
die. So who
We
knows?
talked about it in Nosferatu. He dipped like 1,000 fucking rats in bleach. Remember, or not bleach, but he like boiled them to turn them white.
Yeah.
And like,
Turn 'em white,
and like
right.
1,000 of them died. Like, and it's like, so these monkeys, they're basically, I don't know. The Kinski, like, it's so funny that he just like, he doesn't even like, I don't know, like, I feel like that wasn't scripted. He just throws it over his shoulder, doesn't even give it a glance.
Yeah.
And you know, that's not like, oh, okay, let's do the blocking. Let's like then throw the monkey, and we'll make sure like they shot that one time probably, and he's just like, whoa, like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's exactly how
He doesn't
shoots.
seem like the kind of guy that's just like, all right, let's do a bunch of takes. It's just like, let's film this a shitload. Like, yeah, I don't know, but
they do. They were a good team though, because they would do it. They wouldn't block it necessarily, but they would go over it for hours. Before they shot it.
So that they
it's like,
fucking nailed it because film is expensive.
exactly. Yeah. But
your other question,
man.
your other
question, yeah, is a big guy, man. I don't know. It's like
I do think, like, I'm glad there's a lot of protections for animals, and like obviously with the strike going on right now, like extras and people don't get paid, and there needs to be protections for these people and these animals and things. But at the same time, it's like I do feel like sometimes it's like all a little too safe. Like I think everyone should be respected and feel safe, like physically. But it's hard because you get shit like this, and then it's like you get Shelley Duvall's performance that ruined her life. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just like I don't think that's right, thing. But it's
I think we can still get that's what's crazy is like we're getting like I'm thinking of like Beau is Afraid. I know that's not any extreme to this magnitude, but there's some like extreme performances in that.
That pushes
like,
some boundaries though. You know what I mean? Even
pushes boundaries, and like you could tell like it's people get like, you know, that you hear of stories where people get exhausted on set, and like it's hard to film, but you know that like it's backed by so much protection that like because even like I mentioned earlier, but Alec Baldwin shooting somebody on accident, it's like that wasn't to get a good shot necessarily. It just was accident.
There was like just straight up negligence and carelessness.
And so
it wasn't like being cool and like shooting on the fucking woods and like.
It's like that's true. That's a true tragic accident that like is loss of life, and there's nothing out of it. And it's almost like, I mean, that sounds callous, but it's like if we like the finished product that Werner Herzog gets, it's like it's amazing, and he still does that to this day. Like he's still extreme with the people he works with, but I think he's even like he's clearly like he's not abusing animals.
That's what's hard. It's like I think Beau is Afraid is probably a pretty good example. Like Ari Aster, it's like you can get these sort of, as long as you have the right vision and like I guess creative control to like get these products and these performances. Because it's like that movie's pretty unhinged, but it's very tightly contained at the same time. Like it's very, like Ari Aster is very fucking deliberate and methodical. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you got shit like fucking Romero using an actual shotgun to like blow off the head of a zombie because that's the only way to get a good shot. Like for the VFX, they just put the fucking shotgun in the zombie's chest, right? You know?
Right.
And it's that can't happen now because it's definitely unsafe.
But like the thing is, I think also platform wise, like Herzog, he didn't do this with any studio backing. So it's like you can make movies that are this extreme nowadays still. So it's kind of like, it's just like I wonder where's that outlet though? Like, I don't know if we're seeing people go that extreme, and maybe because it is a cultural shift, like people are like, we know, like, well, I don't want to like abuse an animal just to get a good shot when like you can do something else.
Yeah, there are alternatives. Like a lot of the animal abuse in this, it's like, did it further it really? I don't know.
Right.
Not
exactly.
really.
But I mean, but like I think
horse,
so.
yeah, the horse.
I think
probably,
the horse elicited a lot of
It was
emotions for
effective.
me. Every time it was like freaking out, I could tell in real life the horse is stressed, and everybody on set is stressed. Like it's like all the actors are stressed with this horse kicking around because no one wants to get fucking kicked by a horse, and like so it's like the realism exists there, and then when they leave it, that's like emotionally jarring. Like that was like the saddest part for me in this whole movie, and so it's just like it did elicit emotions, and so I'm like. That's kind of where I get like this worked, and so it's like
I know
the end,
it's
Joseph
hard because
Williams-
like I've said before, it's like I don't think Kubrick should have fucking and everyone on set should have emotionally abused Shelley Duvall to the point of like her hair's falling out and shit. But she gave one of the best performances in horror. I fucking think her in The Shining is incredible. And it's like, but it's like, is it worth it? I don't know. But art's hard, but it's like sometimes it's like pushing boundaries and breaking the rules. It's not good, but it does make for better art. Like we said, you know, like fucking some of the best artists are broken, horrible people, and some art it's like is made with blood, and that might not be great for some people, and it's not good, but it is interesting to talk about.
Yeah, right. I guess it is kind of like it's like. Well, and I think there are. I don't know. Objectively, there are worse things out there. So,
yeah,
I feel like that's
you
pretty
know.
cool. But
I feel like if somebody was gonna remake this, it's like you wouldn't want the safe on a set.
Well,
like
and I think
film
that you
it, but
could.
have enough. Like
but
you don't have
I
to have
think
the
that's what I'm trying to
comforts,
get
I
at
don't know.
is like Bo is Afraid. That's all manufactured. So it's like you can remake this movie and have a safe environment for people to work in.
Yeah, you can walk
It's
the
like-
line,
and
just
I-
bring it back
yeah,
from
so-
unsafe to uncomfortable. Like,
exactly.
shoot on a raft. You know, get fucking crazy, but
No,
have a
you can
fucking
shoot,
medic
like-
team on standby
That's
if
what it
somebody
would
falls
be.
in or
That's-
something. Like, you know what I mean?
That is what it would be.
That's
Is like,
that's the compromise, I think. 'Cause it's like if you're
Right.
going into the river in this movie, it's like
well, dude, they like shot
Yeah.
on a crazy like, dude. The whole time watching
it's
this
just
movie,
logs.
I
on a raft.
was anxious for people. Just
Oh,
like
oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I know Herzog has a history of killing people on set.
The
so I'm
cameraman's
gonna-
got like trench foot at this point because he's just standing
Yeah.
in the water. Anyway, we gotta button it
Yeah.
up.
I know. Yeah, but that was thank you for the questions, Travis.
Yeah. That's a good
you
one
know, great as
because that
always.
is an interesting topic of discussion. You know what I mean? I do think.
Right.
Anyway, so Aguirre, the Wrath of God, pretty good. If this is up your alley, the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, the more I appreciate it. And so I'm really glad. I'm really glad we watched it. So thank you for everyone that picked that. I hope you actually went and actually watched it because I only know like 2 people that actually did. So thank you that did that. Next week, and I don't know, I fucked the poll up or something, and I'm surprised it won because I put a lot of the big hitters on there. I thought for sure Taxi Driver would win, maybe. It's like
Well, yeah, and it didn't even come close.
no, not really. I mean, it was second, but like by
Oh,
not
was it? Oh,
by,
I thought-
by
I
not
thought-
that much though.
I thought third
Uh,
was second.
But what?
I thought Third Encounters was second.
Oh, they're
I always
close.
look.
They're close.
I always look like a day ago or something.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway,
Close Encounters is what I voted for because it's the only one I
me
haven't
too.
seen.
I
but-
know. I haven't seen it.
But we're gonna watch Young Frankenstein next week, which is good because if we didn't watch it, I was probably gonna want to put it on Horrortober.
Right. Yeah.
So
we're getting, we're getting into
we're
it
getting
right before.
into it, and it's like I haven't watched it in a while, but it's probably my favorite Mel Brooks movie. So I always love me some Gene Wilder, you know, and 70s Gene Wilder comedy, some good shit. I almost put Willy Wonka, but I took it out just because I'm like I can't do Gene Wilder movies in the fucking poll, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can have both of them.
Yeah,
And
so-
Wonka's coming out soon, so I'm gonna go see that.
Just, I
magical.
masturbate to Timothy
That
Chalamet.
magical.
I know that's I see it in your eyes. That's the only reason.
I know. I wanted him to make me a little special chocolate.
Yeah.
So thank you, patrons. We
Thank
love you guys.
you. We got for you patrons, we're doing Barbie next. So
Yeah.
go
That sounds cool.
if you want to listen to us talk about Barbie and see our hot takes as 2 straight white men.
Hell yeah.
Come get on the Patreon because we're gonna go talk about that right now. So,
Yeah, you
but
can
everyone
blast
else,
us on the Patreon and be like, you guys.
we love you anyway. We love everyone. If you made it this far, you're great. So, and for everyone on YouTube, we appreciate it because a lot of people watching on YouTube for some reason. So hi.
I know we're getting like 1,600 100 hits like every episode. Anyway, hey, bye.
Bye.